Well, welcome everyone. Thanks to everybody who's attending online and everybody who was able to attend here in person. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We'd like to save questions for the end, but we'll see how the flow of the presentation goes. We'll start off here with an introduction from our Executive Director, Molly Duplashane, and yeah, we'll get things kicked off.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm gonna kind of go back and forth. We've got a group online and a small group here in the building too. But I'm Molly Duplashane, Executive Director for Excise and Licenses. And just wanted to thank you all for coming here and for you all online for tuning in. As you all probably saw yesterday, we put out some information around the proper illumination requirements for parking lots. And so we'll go through those here today. We'll have some time to get into the details, have time for questions, look at the map of the designated area, go through our enforcement plan, some resources that'll be available for parking lots to support this effort. But I think first I just wanted to recognize and appreciate the cooperation and the understanding of everybody of the importance of proper lighting at parking lots. What we've heard from DPD is that lighting can be one of the most effective deterrents of crime. And what we also know is that there are currently some parking lots, particularly in Lodo, but in the downtown neighborhood and across the city that are not well lit. And so we do see increased criminal activity happening at those locations. So what we hope with these requirements is that we kind of set up a win-win-win situation, where the lighting standards will improve, both the perception and the reality of the safety, of the parking lots, and protect the customers of the parking lots, protect their belongings, protect their cars and their vehicles. We're also hoping that businesses will see some improvements in seeing less crime occurring on their property, including damage to the property, or their customers will be seeing, less crime to their property that are parked on their lots. And then also energy savings and energy efficiencies. A lot of work has gone into developing these requirements. Huge thanks to Alex Vidal, to putting in and getting, into the details that we weren't expecting around foot candles and kelvins and things like that. So we've learned a lot. And so I'll let Alex take it over from here and dive in. Or is it Erica? Reese.
All right, thank you, Molly. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some introductory information, and then I'll hand it off to Alex to talk about the specifics. But the first part is just kind of reviewing the authority for the requirements. So in our Denver Revised Municipal Code, Section 55-266, there's a requirement that all licensed parking lots be kept properly illuminated at all times the lot is open for business. So the provision also allows for approval by the department. So what we're doing here today is under this ordinance requirement, we're adopting some guidance that defines that proper illumination. It's not clearly defined in the ordinance, so we're laying that out along with some ways to comply in order to fill out that detail. DRMC 55-266 also requires that parking lots be operated and managed in such a manner as to afford reasonable protection against the theft of cars and the contents thereof parked on the lot. So providing that proper lighting is an essential component in that goal of the ordinance, in that legislative intent to discourage thefts and supporting suspect identification. A couple of other ordinance provisions that I'll lay out for us before Alex goes into the details include definitions. So who does this apply to? In the DRMC, parking lot is defined as any place, lot, parcel, yard, structure, building, or enclosure used in whole or part for storing or parking 3 or more motor vehicles where a storage or parking fee is charged. So this does include multi-story garages, not just flat surface lots. However, the ordinance does exempt a few types of parking lots in the city, and those are in DRMC 55-262. And those exemptions include parking lots or off-street parking facilities that are used by apartment complexes, so the parking lot at your home, or special event parking lots that have that temporary use permit. So if there's a festival or something where they're parking cars in a field, that would not be covered either. So also for the purposes of these lighting requirements that we're going to talk today, the phrase open for business means any time that the premises is not secured and is accessible either to cars or pedestrians who are able to walk through or onto the lot. So our goals of these improved lighting standards are essentially to ensure the safety of customers and the public. Like Molly mentioned, our number one recommendation for improving safety and reducing crime near businesses and parking lots is that improved lighting. This proper lighting allows people to see and avoid hazards in their surroundings, including collisions and potential attackers. Proper lighting also allows our security cameras to more accurately capture details that help us identify perpetrators of crime. So that's a little bit about our background. Now I will pass it over to Alex to talk about what the specific requirements are that are outlined in the guidance.
Thank you, Erica. So our guidance provides specifications for brightness and uniformity. The brightness is important, so we're going to be requiring LEDs. They provide the best color rendering for human eyes to see potential hazards from at least 30 feet away. And then for uniformity, so the first picture there is an example of color temperature, so it kind of gives the light a different color, and the kind of white light is what we're shooting for. We don't want that orange color that it's not as clear. We don't want that super hot, bright blue kind of light. It also has requirements for uniformity. So on the bottom there, this is an example of poor uniformity. There's a box truck almost right underneath that parking lot light, and you can barely see it. So what we're trying to avoid is having parts that are really, really bright, which creates dark spots, and that creates issues for when your eyes are adjusting. And so you end up actually seeing less, even though you have very bright lights in some locations. The slides are the first slide. Okay. Hmm. Is that better now? Okay. Now, how about now? Did it move? No? Okay. We might have to go in and out per each slide. That's fine. We'll make that work. That works? Okay, excellent. We'll just have to go in and out. So this is an even better example of lighting uniformity. You can see in that first picture on the left that there are a couple of poles that have been turned off, and then they're turned on in the next, and the lot overall is just much easier to see in that second. Even though I believe in that second light there might be less bright lights, but they're just more evenly spaced out. So it just creates a much better picture for customers, for pedestrians walking through, for the public in general, for police, anyone involved in looking at what's happening in our parking lots. Okay, so now we've got to the meat of the matter here. These are the specific requirements that we're going to be requiring of all licensees. These are the minimum requirements for all lots citywide. So every lot in the city will be required to adhere to these. These are taking from the Denver zoning code that were adopted, I believe, was it 2018, Ken? Yes, around 2018, CPD adopted requirements for outdoor lighting around parking lots. A lot of the parking lots were existing uses, and so therefore they didn't have to comply at that time. We are now requiring this as part of our licensing authority, but they have been vetted. They've been, used by CPD for new lots and new uses, and so I'll quickly list some of the important ones. You need to comply with all of the requirements of the zoning code, but wanted to call out a few here. The first is use of full cutoff lighting fixture. So that's a U0 luminaire that's not going to have any up glare. Restrictions on the allowable height, those are all specified in the zoning code, how high your light fixtures can be, prohibition on glare, the use of security lighting at entrances, non-residential and multi-unit developments, and then lighting uniformity. So this is important. We were talking about the evenness of light being spread over the parking lot. So citywide, all lots will need to have at least a 20-to-1 ratio. So that's a maximum to minimum ratio, where the brightest spot cannot be 20 times brighter than the least brightest spot in the parking lot. That's what that ratio means. And once again, we'll do a little switcheroonie here. And so then these are the enhanced requirements for the areas around downtown. We have a map specified. I'll show you the map on the next slide. But collaborating with our DPD partners, identified that downtown seemed to be the hottest spot for crime associated with parking lots. So this is vehicle thefts, thefts from vehicles, thefts of auto parts. There's even a couple of carjackings. And this doesn't include other types of crime that are not related to vehicles. So there's been some violent crime as well around some of these parking lots. But for this area, in addition to having, zero cutoff light fixtures, we want the luminaires to use LED. So we'll have our Excel partners talk about their program and how you can possibly get a conversion to an LED luminaire at no cost. And so we're requiring LEDs those usually have a color temperature range that's within this specification of either 2700 or 3000 Kelvin. So that'll give us that nice clean white light instead of that super bright blue light or an orangey kind of light that you get from the halide type luminaires. For minimal horizontal illumination, we're looking for 0.2 foot candles, so not less than 0.2 foot candles within the hardscape of the parking lot. There's an exception if your lot is abutting or a protected district or a residential district, then we are going to lower that to a 0.1 foot candles. So that it's not quite as bright in those residential and protected areas near those lots. And then the uniformity ratio for the lots within the designated area is going to be 10-1. So instead of 20-1, it's 10-1. We would not want the brightest spot to be 10 times brighter than the least brightest spot. So if you do a little math, the minimum is 0.2 foot candles. So you're not going to want to have more than 10 times that in the brightest parts of your lot, which is going to be directly under the luminaire. And that's going to be measured, at finished grade there, just above or at ground level, basically. Here is the map of the designated area. So it includes most of downtown, a little bit of Capitol Hill there, and some of North Cap Hill. There's not really a lot of parking lots in the kind of Five Points area, so that's excluded. And then we did capture the Rhino area as knowing that there's a lot of activity now there around bars and late night activity. And so some of the lots out there, we wanted to make sure that they had meet these minimum standards. All this information will be available on our webpage. So if you we'll make this presentation available as well as all the specifics here in text. Right. So for our timeline here for enforcing these requirements, at your license renewal, we're going to require that you submit a verification of your compliance status so that if you are currently compliant, you can submit a verification of that. No further action will be needed. You can move forward with your operations. If we receive a complaint from DPD or the public where there are concerns about the amount of light at the parking lot, we may require that you submit verification of your current status sooner than at your renewal. And then if we receive verification from you that you're not compliant, we're going to require a compliance plan from the operator so that we can continue to work with you. We may require a verification of progress on that plan. And then if we are not seeing that you're submitting verification or you're not making progress on your compliance plan, then we may take disciplinary action, which will include fines and potentially action against the license. But we really are focused on educating operators about these requirements and working towards a compliance plan. We understand this is going to take time. Different lots should do different things to come into compliance and are going to be on different timelines. And so we're more than, willing to work with operators to make sure that you're able to comply. But if we don't see folks that refuse to try and get into compliance, there will be enforcement process for that. Right, got a couple more slides here, and then we'll switch over to our partners over at Excel for them to describe the resources that they can provide. And so in order to verify compliance, we're asking that a qualified professional provide verification. We're working on that process. We're developing a form for that. And it could be a member of a light manufacturer's application team. So when you buy your lights from the manufacturer, they have an application team that can do measurements and estimates of what your current lighting is and what the improved lighting would be with their luminaires. You can also hire a state licensed electrician or a state licensed engineer that can perform this type of verification. Okay, and then last slide here is we've got resources available. So we obviously got the web page. Any changes, any updates will be included on that web page. Lots of information there. Really highly recommend folks go there first. And then if there are still questions, reach out to us. You can reach out to us through email by emailing exlpolicy@denvergov.org. You can also call the 311 service. There's the full number there on the screen. And they will create a case and we will get in touch with you unless they have the information available to them there and they can answer your question right away. And so before we switch over to our Excel partners, wanted to see if there were any immediate questions regarding the policy. So what the requirements are, our enforcement process, things of that nature. Obviously, like I said, we're here to answer questions if something comes up later on, once you've had a little bit of time to digest this information and see how it'll apply to your business. Are there any questions in the room? I'll start in the room first. Any questions? The folks in attendance here today will be available.
Just verifying. Applies to structures. That's like that. But is that typically the rooftop or the whole thing?
So the question is, will this lighting requirement apply to multi-story garages? It does apply to multi-story garages. That is not a question I think that we have contemplated at this point. I'm within the structure, obviously it would apply. We'll have to discuss it a little further. Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Lighting.
Uh-huh.
Concerned about the rooftop, maybe that.
Sure, sure.
Point one.
Yeah.
The candle.
Yeah. Put 1 foot candles. Yeah, yeah. So the question well, the more context around the question is it's a rooftop on a multi-story garage near a residential area. So the way we envision this was anywhere that the public is going to be walking through, customers are going to be walking through, where there's potential that, an attacker or some other incident, another hazard would be there. But in this situation, we will, take a closer look and work with the operator. Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, this is exactly what we were hoping to get out of this is these types of questions. We try and think of everything, but obviously, the folks on the ground see this stuff day to day and have a better sense of it. So thank you for that question. We will definitely look into that and get back to you. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions in the room? Okay. Chuck, are there any questions online that you want to read out?
Yep, we have a few. If you are outside the mapped area, are you required to comply?
I'm sorry. If you're outside the work.
So the mapped area.
Oh, great question. So yes, so the mapped area is for those enhanced requirements, requiring the biggest things are LED and a 10-to-1 uniformity ratio. If you are outside the enhanced area, you need to comply with the current zoning code requirements, which are a 10-to-1 uniformity ratio. And I don't think LEDs are not required in the zoning code, but a 10-to-1 uniformity ratio would be required. And then all of the other things. So no up glare, so a U0 rated luminaire, and some of those other things. So please do look at the zoning code requirements. All parking lots citywide will be required to comply with the zoning code requirements. The enhanced area, the map that I showed, they're required to have LEDs and a 10-to-1 uniformity ratio in addition to the zoning code requirements of full cutoff lights and restrictions on the height of the luminaire as well. So the question is, will the information be sent to all license holders? So we have made the information available on our webpage. We did send out a mass email to all current parking lot licensees. we, may send out another email as a reminder after this, providing the link to this presentation and the webpage and the requirements as well. So yeah, happy to send that information out again. Okay. Yes, so this is the zoning code requirements would apply into the city and county of Denver. It's the city and county. So within Denver's jurisdiction, all licensed parking lots would need to comply with the zoning code requirements, those minimum standards. So we're still working through the online process and what that will look like. But we are monitoring that and will provide further guidance and instructions on how to proceed. But yes, we will let you know when and how to submit verification. We did not include a lumen maximum or minimum. So well, there's an illumination minimum of 0.2 foot candles in that enhanced area. Um, but we did not have a maximum lumen requirement. And April, if I'm misstating anything, please let me know and feel free to come up and clarify.
Yeah.
Actually, because just to make sure the folks online capture.
So Alex has been asking me some questions so that we can make sure we're, creating requirements that are, baked in the latest standards and industry requirements, and that makes sense with how lighting designers and engineers will approach lighting parking lots. So we did talk about setting, maximum or minimum lumen requirements for lights, but what we really want to center on is that ground level illumination level measured in foot candles. And so however, that is achievable in different ways. And so, if you have like a taller light, you might need to have more lumens. Or if you have, shorter light poles, you would want fewer lumens per light. And so we wanted to allow that flexibility. So we don't have minimum or maximum lumen requirements specifically stated at this time. And it's really just about hitting those foot candle requirements on the ground.
Yeah, so pardon my rude manners. That was April Corey, a lighting engineer that we contracted to help us develop these standards. Again, she did a lot of calculations and worked with the recommendations from the Illumination Engineering Society for parking lot lighting. So again, to just reiterate, we did want to make these as flexible as we could to provide options for our licensees to meet the requirements and however best they can, but with the ultimate goal of having sort of a minimum amount of lighting and more uniform lighting through the parking lots.
When does this go on?
So these are effective as of this month. As of yesterday, the webpage was made available and we had a press release, and so they are in effect now. But as I mentioned, we're still rolling out our process for you to submit verification that where your status is with compliance with the lighting requirements. And so they are effective now. And so I would begin planning and for making those changes now and starting to work towards what you're going to need to do to come into compliance. I would not wait if your license is not renewed until November of 2025. I would not wait until November of 2025 because the sooner you start the process, the more time you'll have to kind of spread out, costs and the time that it'll take to complete all the different tasks. So I would highly recommend if you own a parking lot, if you're a licensed parking lot in the city and county of Denver, that you start looking at these requirements and start to reach out to the professionals that you'll need to come into compliance.
Is the certification of components required? Or licensing or just with the initial?
So that's not something that we had specified, but because light is the infrastructure is something that is generally a one-time thing that you're going to install. We're really looking to make sure that you're in compliance with these requirements, and then moving forward, if you make changes, we'll want to know about that. But if there are no changes, we may have a simpler process where you don't need to submit anything after you've verified initial compliance.
All licensed parking to be sheet is shown, but it's only it's the area different from the Oklahoma City.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no problem. So yeah, definitely go to the webpage. There's lots of information on there that kind of explains it a little bit better. Let me actually go to the map just to make sure folks are clear about a couple of things. Okay, so again, the minimum requirements for parking lots are going to be applicable to all lots citywide. Now, there on top of those, there are some enhanced requirements that are only going to apply in the designated area, which is bounded by the red lines there. The streets are clearly labeled. And you should also note at the bottom that it says that if the parking lot premises abuts the boundary, so even if you're on the other side of that boundary line, but your parking lot touches one of those streets, then you're going to be required to adhere to those enhanced requirements. So there's an important note at the bottom there I did want to call out. Please take a look at the website. There's lots of information. We're happy to answer questions, but a lot of this information is going to be on the webpage. So, any other questions, Chuck?
What's the grace period to get into compliance if this went into effect now?
Yes, so the first step is going to be submitting something that says that you're either in compliance right now or that you're not in compliance and that you recognize that and that you're starting to work towards compliance. So that'll be at the latest when you renew your license. However, if we do receive a complaint from Denver Police or from the public or from anyone else that there are concerns about lighting in your parking lot, we may require that you submit that verification of your status sooner. So at the latest on renewal, it could be sooner depending on the types of complaints that we receive from Denver Police and from the public. And then in terms of finishing your plan to get into compliance, of getting the construction done, pulling permits, all those kinds of things, that's going to be on a case by case basis. We're going to look at the parking lot and your compliance plan, what your plans are to get into compliance, how reasonable that is, and whether you're making progress on that plan, or if you're just putting a plan out there and then not taking any steps to actually complete the plan. So it's going to look different from lot to lot, but within the next year, all lots should have started the process. We're looking to get compliance going sooner than that so we can start to see improvements in public safety sooner than that.
The next question, who must be licensed?
So this is for licensed parking lot operators. If you're required to get a license, then these requirements do apply to you. At one of those first slides that Erica went over, talked about some of the exemptions that are for lots that don't need to be licensed. These requirements would not apply to lots that don't need to get a license, but they do apply to all parking lots that must be licensed. Any new questions? Okay, excellent. And again, feel free to, email us or reach out with other questions. We're happy to work through whatever questions come up to make sure that we're successfully improving public safety in Denver. And with that, we will switch over to our Excel partners. And Grace, is Brad online right now? I don't know. Are you able to make Brad? He said, okay. Brad, are you able to, you want to test your audio?
I'm here.
Okay, fantastic. So you'll have to
Okay.
come out of the thing and go back. I can sit.
Yeah, I was just saying,
Yeah.
I'm not the best at these kinds of things, so I appreciate your time and your patience with me. I'm Grace Lopez Ramirez. I'm the local government and community relations manager for Excel here in the city and county of Denver. I'm joined by our subject matter expert, my colleague Brad, who works in our outdoor lighting team. He coordinates all the work and maintenance that we do on streetlights here in the city and county of Denver. We maintain and operate over, I think, 60,000 streetlights in the city and county of Denver. So it's a lot. He's a busy guy. So then, yeah, what am I gonna do here,
Try
Alex?
Did the slide change online? Just check. No, okay. No
Thank you,
problem.
friend. I appreciate
Yeah,
you.
no, absolutely.
It's just kind of funny. We always have challenges even all these years later, right? With hybrid. Oh, no.
thing.
Oh, no. Okay. Can they see us online?
Okay.
Okay. So one thing that's interesting about our outdoor lighting is it's not smart. We don't necessarily know when the light is out. We really rely on all of you to help us report any lighting that needs maintenance. So the first part of this really is reporting any maintenance that you see. If you know the street light on, the right of way on the sidewalk as they're coming into your private property has been out for a while and that's impacting. Oh, okay. Great. Thank you. So if you know that lighting needs already maintenance, please, we urge you to please report it to us by calling the 1-800 number. I have some handouts that I'll hand out as well that talk about where you can report. We prefer you report it online because then you do get a little reference number essentially that you can check in on your streetlight request. There are a lot of different streetlights, types of streetlights in the city and county of Denver. Some of them, those manufacturers are no longer in business. So depending on the streetlight that you're reporting for an outage, it might take a little bit of time to get that changed out, whether it's on public property or private property. Actually, and I'll go into this a little bit later, not to convolute things, but it's something that you really need to take into consideration as it does take time, depending on what might be causing the streetlight outage. It's not necessarily, something that's obvious. If it's a fault underground, then we have to pull a right-of-way permit from the city and county of Denver's DOTI department, and then we have to order the parts for it, and all those kind of things do play into the timeline for maintenance of streetlights. Okay, and so then
And I'll just add to that that will help you avoid complaints about lack of lighting is to make sure that. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, apologies. Just to finish that thought, that will help you avoid complaints about lack of lighting is making sure that all the street lighting in your area is been maintained and the lights on your lot are being maintained through Excel's program.
So if you're a parking lot owner or manager, we do have a dedicated call line for that for private property. So that's that 303 number up there. And then we have an email address for our ODL. It's odllighting@excelenergy.com. So it's the highlighted email. Again, that's odllighting@excelenergy.com. And that's really the best way to report on private parking and a private parking lot, private/public parking lot. You understand what I'm saying? It's a little bit different than if it's a street light on public property in the right of way. Now I'm ready. Thank you.
And
And that's my colleague Brad, for those of you in the room. So then for upgrading existing lights, and this is for all of you here representing parking lots, the parking lot high pressure sodium fixtures and lamps are no longer being manufactured. And that's something that we're dealing with kind of light by light, as I mentioned earlier. So for parking lot lights, they will all eventually need to be converted to LED. But good news is there is no cost to you for converting those parking lots to LED. And this is a Cobra headlight, the picture. This is what most of your streetlights look like around Denver and in your parking lots. So it's a like for like kind of a switch out. And so if your lights are already LED, they would be charged for an upgrade for a higher wattage. But if you are going from a Cobra head to an LED, that is covered. That there will be no additional charge. There is one thing to note though, that your rate with us for your streetlights may change and will likely change. There is a slight change to it. And our tariffs, our rates are set by the Public Utilities Commission. So they do change, not that often, but they are subject to change. Brad, is there anything you want to add there before we hit the last couple bullets?
No, it's just if you have an HPS fixture that we can go ahead and, like Grace said, upgrade the light, it's important to know that if you upgrade it to a equivalent like for like light and it's a 100-watt HPS, we're going to put in a equivalent LED. But if after converting the light, if you decide that you wanted to or you should have gone up to a 400-watt LED equivalent, we would charge you for changing that out and the cost for that light. So really make sure that what you want converted is what you really want converted. Let's see, that's it. I mean, it's fairly simple.
The one thing we haven't talked about is really the form you'll need to fill out in order to convert to an LED. We do have a form. It's linked on the website, the excise and license website for this illumination requirement. And then we will ask you to please fully complete that form. And it does need to be turned in and filled out by essentially the property owner or the property manager. It's the client on record, basically the customer on record with us is the one who's responsible then for requesting the conversion because of that change in tariff rate. So that's important. Also, we will not process any incomplete forms, so please make sure they're fully filled out, and then you'll have to return them to this email address. This is a dedicated email address where we're going to be tracking all of the Denver parking lot requests for conversions, and that's DenPL, so Denver parking lot, basically, DenPL lighting at excelenergy.com. And that's also highlighted here. And again, if the requester is not the authorized contact, then we cannot process your request to convert. So it's important to do that from the onset so you're not going back and forth with us. Because unfortunately, we really can't complete and process it without it being the authorized contact.
And once the form's submitted with all the information, I'll reach out to you and communicate to you what to expect as far as timeline, clarification of making sure that they're the correct number of lights that are on the lot. And if for any reason, Grace, you might be getting to this, but yeah, you are getting to this. If the light spread is not sufficient, then additional street lights and poles can be requested, but those would be a new service. And that would be through our builder's call line. And they would be the ones that would take your request from there. So it would be slightly different than if it was an existing parking lot light.
That's something also to take into consideration for your timing. I know that and as excise and license starts to enforce this new requirement, I'm sure they'll work with you if you're already working with us to design a new service, so new lights and poles. It does have to go through a design process and then construction, and then depending on what distribution what the distribution system looks like on that block. Like there's a lot of factors that go into just to putting in a new pole. So we just want to make sure that you're aware of that potential timeline. Again, we have a lot of streetlights to maintain, and so it's something that we're cognizant that we want to make sure that we're communicating with you well and that you are aware of the various steps. But it does, if you do need new poles and new lights, it does take time. And then you would just call this 1-800 number. There is no email for the builder's call line. And then that's it. We have questions is my next slide. No, thank you, Alex, for sliding us over. Are there any questions for us?
Excel resources available to help operators, whether they just before they start that.
So I just want to repeat the question for those online. So the question is, does Excel have any resources that would help licensees understand upgrade beyond converting their existing lights, understanding how to comply with the new requirements? To help licensees understand what kinds of conversions and new lights they might need to comply.
Brad, do you want to answer that? Did you catch it?
Yes, we in outdoor lighting do not have those resources available. That would be something that the parking lot owner or manager would need to provide themselves, someone to come out and evaluate the surface area and what would be required.
But is it safe to say if they have a Cobra head like the one in the picture that likely they'll need they will need to convert to LED and they can start that process or?
Well, yeah, they can, sure, certainly. I mean, um, a good example would be the lot that's on 1801 Market Street that we recently did. Um, we upgraded those lights as was requested for like, I believe. And it illuminated the entire parking lot beautifully. So, but as far as the evaluation, that's not, we don't have the resources to do that. Similar to like if a city was having a new residential neighborhood put in, they drive the requirements and decide on what spacing would be and that kind of thing. So.
And Denver does have street lighting requirements on right of way as well. That's under Dottie. And there is an application that you can submit to Dottie for additional streetlights and right of way. Any other questions?
Will Excel be able to provide verification approvals?
I think that's the same.
I- I believe so, and that would be. Go
So
ahead.
I think what they're asking is, can Excel provide the verification that they're complying with with our lighting requirements? It sounds like from Brad's previous answer that that's not the case, but I'll let Grace and Brad weigh in there.
Oh. I misunderstood that then.
Whether Excel could provide the verification to us that they are complying with our new requirements. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe we would do that. No. Yep, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So
mean,
we've been it's our understanding that the light manufacturers that you normally would buy your luminaires from, that they have folks on staff that can do this type of calculation to see if your current lighting meets the requirements or needs to be upgraded.
If they need something from Excel for the license renewal, is that something that Excel will provide to the property owner to submit to submit to P&L, and if it is, what is that?
I mean, I don't know if it's as simple as like the email exchange that Brad is going to be doing with them through the Den PL lighting at excelenergy.org email where we've requested the conversion to LED, they've requested the conversion to LED, and it's now just being scheduled for a change with us, and they have a date that might come up during that time. I don't know how official of a form you would need to confirm that they're working with us on perhaps a new pole. So they've already called the builder's call line, and there's a documented process with Excel that we are moving through a design and construction process for their new poles.
Yeah, so the question here in the room is what kind of documents or information will Excel provide related to compliance? So as we were discussing before, Excel will not provide you a verification of whether you meet the new requirements, but as part of your compliance plan, we may request that you submit documentation that shows that you're following through on your compliance plan, like you've emailed Excel requesting a conversion. That would be a sign that you're making progress on your plan.
Yeah, I'll be sending out an email saying that I've received your request, and then also when the request is completed, that they've completed the work. So if you provide that to Denver, then they can take that either as a verification that the work's being done or not. But
Can we find out what our current light models are on Excel online portal?
Can we find out what current
Light models.
light models? Yeah, you'll definitely have to work with your manufacturer that you normally buy your lights from to find out to have them help you understand what they can provide and how that would fit in with our requirements. So yeah, you can definitely encourage you to work with your light manufacturer to understand the requirements and what they can provide from their inventory.
so just a point of clarification, the person that just was asking the question, were they asking about for in a parking structure or actual parking lots where people would walk through. Because and the reason why I ask is that Excel Energy manages the fixtures and works with manufacturers. It's not something that the customer would necessarily do. That would be us. But if the question is related more to what wattage you currently have, then I certainly can answer that. If you provide the information on the application, I can call you back and have a discussion on what's currently out there. And if you're only have 100 watts and you want to go to a 250 or 400, then we'll have that discussion. So I can personally do that, but you shouldn't be working with any other manufacturer with Excel owned facilities.
And they were asking about a parking lot.
And that's like the point of clarification, whether it's an Excel owned and maintained pole in a surface lot, or if it's like a parking lot underground, or that the lighting in that parking lot is not like owned and maintained by Excel. It's owned and maintained by the electrical facilities department of that private building, right?
Yeah.
So in that case, yes, you would probably work with your electrician or your in-house facilities team. But if it's like a surface lot where it's an Excel pole and an Excel light that looks like that Cobra light, then yes.
If you get a bill
Got
from
a
us
good-
for the lights, then that's correct. There is another possibility in that if the lights on the lot are um, metered, where you don't get where you're responsible for the poles and the lights on the lot, then that's something that we would not handle. That would be done by an electrician that you would hire. So that is a caveat to the situation.
It gets complicated. So if you're not sure, when in doubt, email us. I
So
think it's like the when in doubt and you're not sure if you're paying Excel for your parking lot lights. I think it's probably a good idea just to email us. It's kind of funny. You think streetlights are kind of cut and dry, but they're really not. Are there any other questions?
One more. If the light spread is not equal to what we have, will Excel provide an engineer to provide the correct foot candle level?
Size.
No, I don't believe we would. So, right, so it's up to you to, we can tell you what the wattage is of your current lights. If they are Excel lights, and I'm looking at Bradley to make sure I'm saying
Yes.
this correctly.
Yep.
So we can tell you the wattage, and if you need to convert them to LED, we recommend you do that, again, because a lot of the poles and manufacturers, they don't make those kind of lights anymore. So you might as well fill out the form and submit it to us to convert to an LED. That will be, there was no charge to convert to an LED. But then again, if you want higher wattage, and that you would have to find out from hiring a third-party electrician or lighting company to help you figure out how you meet the city's new requirements. That's not something we can help you with, but we can, once we've received the form from you, convert your lights to LED. And that might be a good first step, as he was mentioning earlier, 1801 Market. We didn't end up having to put in new poles because just converting them to LED significantly changed the lighting on that lot. Yes.
We did.
Sure. Perfect.
It's just like, so Travis is here and it was, programs.
Right.
Get that up, so I just wasn't sure, I was just, it was a good time, was wondering, maybe, talk to them a little bit about their experience, and thank them very much for coming to this.
Thank you for that, Robert. I just want to wrap up. Are there any other questions? Okay, fantastic. So no
Before
more
we do
questions?
that, I'll just say that we work with DPD regularly, all the time on private parking lots. So this happens, it's been, I don't even know how many times we get emails multiple times a week from either DPD or city council or registered neighborhood organization about streetlights. We're happy to work with DPD directly, but we do need that request and form filled out from the parking lot manager or owner. Okay, Thank you.
Thank you so much, Grace. Really appreciate our partners at Excel sharing information about the resources that they have and what they're able to help our licensees with. Just really very briefly, want to emphasize that if you're a parking lot owner, licensed lot owner in the city of Denver, we recommend that you immediately start looking at these requirements, start to understand them. If you have Excel owned lights and or need conversions, get those done. Again, as Grace mentioned, there are lots that just by converting to LEDs significantly improve the lighting. If you have lights that are out on your lot or near your lot, call to get those serviced. Those are fantastic ways to get this process started and to avoid complaints that are going to trigger potentially an enforcement process, and to improve public safety, and the public starts to see those changes and is less likely to complain or have concerns about that. And just for the folks online, our inspector supervisor Robert has mentioned that there are some lots that have converted to LEDs, specifically around 18th and Market, and saw some significant improvements around lighting just by converting to LEDs. And so, if you're want to say anything about your experience, we're happy to give you the floor. If there's anybody online as well that wants to share an experience that they've had around converting their lights, we're open to that, so that other folks can see that. Other operators have gone through this process, have seen benefits, and what their experience was like. So if anybody wants to volunteer, this is a good time. But if not, that's perfectly fine. Understand? All right. Well. Alrighty. Well, thank you for everybody for attending, and I'll let Molly close us out unless you want me to. Okay. Yeah. So thank you for everybody for attending. Really appreciate the interest and in coming into compliance and being good partners with public safety around downtown and throughout the city. Again, if you have any questions, please email us. If you have Excel owned lights and have questions about them, reach out to Excel. We're here to be a partner with you and to help you comply with these new requirements to make Denver a safer place, and our downtown continue to be vibrant and safe. So that will conclude our presentation. Thank you to everyone.